This series explores Atalanta Fugiens, a famous late Renaissance alchemical work. Why might this book still matter today? Atalanta Fugiens was compiled at the end of an era, just before the birth of chemistry, and it offers a synthesis of earlier alchemical concepts. It provides intriguing insights into human thought, showing how medieval and early modern thinkers tried to understand nature and work with it. More importantly, the book is an outstanding work of art, especially rich in symbols, behind which lie thought-provoking insights. That means, to understand the book even slightly, readers need a special kind of attention, a different way of thinking, such as immersing themselves in the content. Without it, it looks like a random mixture of misconceptions and delusions, and even the arrangement of its topics is unintelligible. With the right method and increased effort, working with the book becomes a journey into the world of spiritual alchemy, which here means learning how our existence in the material world can be elevated, joining with a sensitivity to spiritual dimensions. Over time, the method and the lessons learned may change how we view the world, as we notice more and more hidden aspects and connections. All of this makes sustained work with the book a kind of initiation. Atalanta Fugiens offers a spiritual alchemical journey, a way to make the most of life in the material world, presented here as nature and time, the creators and destroyers of all things. It shows how people can seek and follow a path of nature, art, wisdom and quest, and so transcend the finite bounds of nature and time. Atalanta Fugiens, that is Atalanta Fleeing, was written by Maier and published in 1616 with a second edition following in 1618. It is one of the most famous works on alchemy, blending philosophy, symbolism, music and visual art. The original work can be found on archive.org. A digital edition is available through the Furnace and Fugue project, which includes English translations of the text, and also the fugues. One of the book's most striking features is its high-quality artistic engravings, the work of Matthäus Merian. The cover illustration presents the mythological tale of Atalanta and Hippomenes, a story also told by Ovid. The book begins with a one-page epigram, a dedication, and the preface. The main content consists of 50 topics, each structured across 4 pages. The first double-page spread includes, on the left, a motto in German, followed by a fugue and an epigram in German. On the right, the Latin motto, a copper engraving, and the epigram in Latin. And the next double-page spread contains a short discourse that aims to clarify the epigram. Maier was well-versed in natural philosophy and alchemical literature. Since this book was created towards the end of his life, it serves not only as a summary of his own ideas, but also as a broader reflection on medieval and late Renaissance alchemical thought. Alchemy, as the art of blending, separating, and transforming materials, was mostly surrounded by legends and rumors. This made alchemical operations seem deceptively simple and full of promise. Maier writes, "God has hidden infinite secrets in nature, which are forced out by innumerable arts and sciences as fire out of a flint and transferred to use." Because alchemy did not produce spectacular physical results in Maier's time, it increasingly turned toward allegory and ritual. What began as material operations evolved into mental exercises. The emblem discourses in Atalanta Fugiens are highly symbolic. Maier suggests that, like other alchemical writings, these should be approached through contemplation rather than practical experimentation. He emphasizes, chemical secrets should be comprehended by the understanding sooner than by sense, rather by profound contemplation upon the reading of authors and comparing them together and with the works of nature than sensitive operation or manual experimentation, which is blind without previous theory. In this sense, Atalanta Fugiens is less an alchemical recipe book and more a guide for mental and spiritual refinement. So instead of providing instructions for making good, it offers a path toward inner transformation, a kind of transmutation of the self. The allegorical themes in Atalanta Fugiens make interpretation challenging, particularly when it comes to determining whether the topics follow a fixed sequence or can be rearranged freely. However, Maier appears to have placed great importance on order. Each of the 50 emblem discourses is carefully numbered in 6 places. First, as the number of the fugue, then as the number of the German epigram printed beneath it, at the top of the next page as the number of the emblem placed above the short motto, and on the same page as the number of the Latin epigram. Finally, at the top of both pages in the discourse section. This detailed numbering suggests a deliberate system rather than a random arrangement. In some cases, the sequence is clear. The first 2 topics reference consecutive lines from the Tabula Smaragdina. The wind carried it in its belly, and the earth fed it. Later, the concept of wisdom is personified as a woman, and it is followed by an emblem depicting the philosopher's rosary. In another emblem, Zeus sends 2 eagles from opposite ends of the world to locate the middle of the earth. In the next image, a wolf from the east and a dog from the west fight each other. Based on the text, we can infer that Maier employed a structured yet subtle system, one that is simple but not immediately obvious, and that carries symbolic meaning. The complexity of Atalanta Fugiens arises not only from its symbolic content, but also from the multiple conceptual layers introduced by its contributors. These layers emerge through their different roles. Maier draws on existing allegorical themes which already carry the ideas of their original authors. He then tries to interpret the intent behind these allegories, adding another perspective. Beyond interpretation, he also introduces his own reflections, often in a more indirect manner. Merian's emblem engravings, while primarily illustrations, do more than depict the text. They emphasize particular details and introduce additional visual elements. The artistic depth and detail of these images may also carry symbolic meaning, offering yet another layer of interpretation. Each emblem is accompanied by the phrase De Secretis Naturae. This inscription subtly shifts the focus, suggesting that these emblem discourses may serve more as a guide to uncovering the secrets of nature, Maier's selection of topics reflects the themes that occupied him, and the allegorical nature of the book invites even broader interpretation. Whether or not this was his original goal, the structure of the book itself encourages a contemplative engagement. As readers immerse themselves in these emblem discourses, the layers of meaning do not impose themselves directly, but instead emerge gradually, offering a path of insight. This suggests that an allegorical reading is not only justified but essential for deeper understanding. The seemingly elusive images and text can ultimately be understood as forms of teaching, guidance, and philosophical insight. Atalanta Fugiens is not a random anthology, but a highly complex work that should be read slowly and contemplatively. Yet its emblems reward sustained attention as meaning emerges gradually rather than all at once. Thus they may draw us into their world. The next part looks at the book's overall system, how the emblems or topics are arranged, and what the main parts or themes are across the whole work.